Relationships are never easy, and when it comes to understanding women, it can feel impossible sometimes. Women are beautifully complex, and let's be honest, sometimes even they don't fully understand themselves. So what are we as men supposed to do? If you don't have a clear understanding, it's so easy to get lost. You might feel confused, lonely, even hurt. Worse, you could find yourself being manipulated, used. You might get abandoned, left in the dark, constantly guessing, and in the end, crushed, disappointed. Nobody wants that. So if you're a guy looking for a good woman, hear me out. Don't rush. Take your time. Too many men have chosen the wrong partner, and the consequences? They lose their confidence, the respect of their friends, their money, and worst of all, their peace of mind. But a man who lives by the Stoic mindset, he doesn't go down that road. He protects his dignity, his inner strength, his clarity of mind, and every single dollar he's worked so hard to earn. To do that, there are 9 things a wise man should never do when it comes to women. And that's exactly what I want to share with you today. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm here to help good men like you better understand women, so you can attract the right one and keep her by your side. And remember this, letting go of these bad habits, it's not just good for your relationships, it's 100 times better for you. Stay sharp. Never ever put anyone on a pedestal higher than your own life's purpose. Before we dive in, I'd really appreciate your support. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Stoic Station channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And if today's message hits home, drop a 1 in the comments. If not, that's cool too. Just type 2 and let me know how I can do better next time. All right, let's get started. One of the biggest mistakes a man can ever make is turning a woman into the center of his entire universe. At first glance, it might seem romantic. You might think you're being devoted, loyal, even noble. But here's the cold truth, brother. Women don't truly respect men who do that. Why? Because deep down, women aren't drawn to men who orbit their every move. They're drawn to men who are grounded in themselves. Men who are driven by something bigger, a vision, a mission, a life they're building with or without anyone's approval. A woman might enjoy the attention in the short term, sure, but if you lose yourself chasing her, if you abandon your goals, your identity, your edge, sooner or later, she's going to lose respect for you. And once respect is gone, attraction crumbles. Here's the part most men miss. It's not about being the guy who wins her attention first. It's about being the man who earns her respect and keeps it. Respect comes before attraction, every time. So instead of pouring all your time, your energy, your focus into her, pour it into yourself. Build your body, sharpen your mind, strengthen your spirit. Have a life philosophy, something you stand for. Have goals that light a fire in your soul. Have hobbies that make you come alive. Have boundaries that protect your time, your values, your peace. Because when a woman sees that she is not your entire world, that you already had a meaningful life full of growth and direction before she entered it, that's when she starts to truly see your value. Let me paint a picture. You're on your grind. You're working hard, chasing purpose, leveling up. You're hitting the gym, reading, mastering your craft. You're improving, not for anyone else, but for you. Then she shows up, and what happens? You slow down. You stop working out. You cancel plans with your boys. You spend hours glued to your phone, texting her back in seconds, because you don't want to lose her. But in that very act, you start to lose yourself. The man she admired, the driven, focused, passionate version of you, starts to fade. And all that's left is someone predictable, available, too easy. The spark? Gone. But a man who walks the Stoic path, he doesn't bend like that. He understands this truth. Your mission comes first, always. Because if a woman truly respects you, she'll support your journey. She'll want to be part of your path, not your entire destination. And if she doesn't, she's not the one. The most important thing you can hold on to in this life is your sense of purpose. It gives you strength. It gives you freedom. It gives your life meaning, with or without a woman by your side. So remember this, and remember it well. A strong man doesn't put a woman on a pedestal, and he never, not for sweet words, not for fleeting affection, abandons the path he was born to walk. Stay true, stay grounded, and never forget who you are. The next big mistake a smart man should never make is trying to impress a woman with money. Sounds familiar, right? We've all seen it, or maybe even done it ourselves. Some guys believe that if they buy enough gifts, take her to the fanciest restaurants, flash the designer clothes, the expensive car, the luxury lifestyle, she'll fall in love. But here's the truth most men learn too late. A woman who's attracted to your wallet isn't the kind of woman you want building a future with. Those women don't love you. They love the benefits, the attention, the status. Sure, she might smile when you hand her the keys to a new bag. She might post pictures of the champagne on her story. She might even call you babe. But deep down she knows you're trying to buy her. And the second the gifts stop, the money slows down, the credit card gets declined or the texts get delayed, she's gone. Here's what a clear-minded man understands. The kind of woman worth building with is the one who values your character, not your credit card. Whether you're eating at a 5-star rooftop restaurant or grabbing something simple from a food truck on the corner, she respects you for who you are, not the size of the bill. And this is the part that stings for some men. There are women out there right now texting a man who hasn't spent a dime on them, while ignoring another guy who's dropped hundreds, maybe thousands, still not getting her respect. Why? Because money can't buy real attraction. It can't buy chemistry. It can't replace masculinity. It can't fake confidence. And it sure as hell doesn't substitute for a strong sense of self-worth. If you rely on your wallet to keep her interested, don't be surprised if she starts treating you like a human ATM. Withdraw here, swipe there, always available, never appreciated, and once the money's gone, so is she. She'll leave you for the man who may not have half your bank account, but has presence, conviction, and the kind of energy that doesn't need to prove anything. That's the man who gets chased, not because he spends more, but because he stands tall. A wise man knows true value isn't loud. It's not flashy. It lives in your mindset, your presence, and your quiet confidence. You don't need to show off to stand out. You don't need validation from a receipt. And the most powerful tool you can carry with you? Self-respect. Because self-respect, it's your shield. It protects you from people who only show up to take, whether that's women, fake friends, or energy leeches. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been in that situation where you spent so much on a woman only to have her disappear the moment you stop providing? If you have, you're not alone. And you're not weak. You just hadn't been taught the game. So share your story in the comments, not to complain, but to help another man avoid the same pain. Because here's the truth. They don't teach this stuff in school. Understanding women, it's like learning to drive, like leveling up in a game. It takes time, it takes patience, and it takes the right strategy. So if you haven't figured it all out yet, don't beat yourself up. Just promise me one thing. Don't give up. Don't let one wrong woman make you bitter. Don't let one bad experience define how you see yourself. You're a man on a journey. Keep walking and lead with purpose, not your wallet. Mistake number 3 that a wise man never makes: chasing a woman's attention. Now, maybe you've been there. You told yourself, if I just try harder, if I always show up first, text first, check in, be available whenever she needs me, she'll start to like me more. But the truth? It works the opposite way. The more you chase, the more you overgive without receiving, the more you abandon your own rhythm to match hers, the less she values you. Because here's what's really happening deep down. When you come on too strong, when you're always reaching, always proving, always available, she subconsciously assumes something, that you don't have other options, that no one else is really looking your way. And whether we like it or not, women are biologically, instinctively drawn to men who seem to have options, not because it's about playing games, but because it signals value. It signals confidence. It shows you're not desperate for attention or approval because you're already enough as you are. Let me give you a real example. There's this woman I know, absolutely beautiful. Every time she walks into a room with her boyfriend, something interesting happens. Other women start paying attention to him. Why? Because if she chose him, he must have something valuable. You see, women often measure your value by the quality of people who choose you. It's social proof. It's subconscious. It's human nature. So when you're always available, always texting first, always dropping what you're doing to check in or show up, she assumes no one else is, and your value in her eyes begins to shrink. But a high-value man, he has a life of his own. He has goals. He has structure. He has purpose. He's not waiting for a text back to feel validated. He's not anxious if a call isn't returned. He's not chasing love, because love follows him. He walks forward, and if she's the right woman, she chooses to walk beside him. Not because he begged, but because his presence pulled her in. And here's something women will rarely say out loud, but they feel it deep in their bones. They respect men who don't reveal everything at once, men who create curiosity, men who aren't too easy to figure out. That's why the strongest move isn't to chase. It's to create space. Let her think. Let her miss you. Let her wonder, what's he up to? Why hasn't he called? Let her reach for you. But more importantly, respect yourself, your time, your energy, your focus. These are sacred. You don't give them away freely just to feel seen. A strong man learns to invest in people who recognize his value. He gives, yes, but he gives with intention and always leaves just enough mystery to keep her coming back. Now listen, as the relationship grows, and especially when you step into marriage or fatherhood, of course she becomes an important part of your life. But that never means you abandon your mission, your health, your mindset, your growth, your masculine edge. In fact, mistake number 4 that a wise man never makes: staying when he's being disrespected. One of the most powerful things a man can do is to simply walk away when his worth is no longer being honored. Sounds simple, right? But let's be real. Not many men can actually do it. Why? Because deep down, many of us are afraid of being alone, afraid of starting over, afraid of losing someone we care about, even if they're not treating us right. So we tolerate it, we justify it, we tell ourselves, she's just having a bad day. Maybe I did something wrong. If I just love her harder, she'll change. But here's the truth, brother. Every time you ignore disrespect, you lose a little more of yourself. Women, often without even realizing it, will test your boundaries, not because they're cruel, not because they want to hurt you, but because on a deep level they want to know, are you strong? Are you solid? Are you a man who stands for something? Just like kids push limits to see if parents stay consistent, women push to see if you will remain grounded. It's not about control, it's about safety, it's about respect. Because listen closely, respect always comes before attraction. If she doesn't respect you, even if the physical connection is there, even if the chemistry feels intense, she still won't fully see you as a man she can trust or admire. Let me give you an example. She starts cancelling plans last minute, with no explanation. She goes cold, distant, or passive-aggressive. Maybe she throws subtle jabs, or worse, uses manipulation to test your reactions. A man who lacks self-worth, he'll tolerate it. He'll chase harder. He'll try to prove himself. But a wise man, he doesn't react with anger. He doesn't beg for her to act right. He doesn't crumble trying to keep the peace. He calmly sets a boundary, firm but respectful. And if the disrespect continues, he doesn't scream. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't create a scene. He simply walks away. Because here's the secret. When you blow up in anger, you give her control. You give her the reaction she wanted. You lose your center. But when you stay calm, composed, grounded in your self-worth, and you walk away without needing to explain yourself, that is true strength. And whether she respects you after that or not, you win, because you chose yourself. You chose your peace. You protected your dignity. A man living by Stoic values understands this. You don't argue to prove your worth. You protect it with silence and with action. So remember this. If a woman makes you question your value, if you're constantly feeling like you're not enough, if your boundaries are always being tested and ignored, that's your sign. It's time to choose you, not her, not the fantasy, not the hope she'll change. Your self-worth isn't negotiable, because at the end of the day, you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. So let me ask you, have you ever been in a relationship where you knew you weren't being respected? Did you stay silent, trying not to rock the boat, only to find yourself more lost, more resentful, more disconnected from the man you used to be? If so, share your story in the comments, not to dwell in the pain, but to remind another man you're not alone. And you don't have to live a life ruled by fear, guilt, or emotional chaos. You deserve a life filled with peace, purpose, and mutual respect. But it starts with you. It starts with the moment you say, enough, and mean it. Mistake number 5 that a wise man never makes: oversharing his emotions too soon and too much. Now listen. We live in a world that constantly tells men, open up, be vulnerable, let it all out. Women love that. But here's the reality most people won't tell you. It's not that simple. There's a fine line between genuine vulnerability and emotional overexposure, between opening up and bleeding out emotionally in front of someone who hasn't earned your trust yet. See, women respect strength. They admire a man who can be in tune with his emotions. But they're not drawn to a man who unloads every fear, every anxiety, every insecurity, too early, too heavily, too soon. If you barely know her, if the foundation of mutual respect, attraction, and trust hasn't been built, and suddenly you're pouring out your deepest wounds, your traumas, your emotional chaos. Yes, she might feel sympathy. She might smile gently, nod, listen. She might say, "It's okay." But deep down, her attraction begins to fade. Because emotionally healthy women, women who are looking for a partner, not a project. They're drawn to stability, not unpredictability, not emotional dependence. Here's something you won't hear often: the boyfriend mode and the mom mode. They cannot exist at the same time. The moment she starts feeling like she has to emotionally take care of you, like she's the one keeping you afloat, the chemistry dies. Not because she's cold, not because she doesn't care, but because that maternal instinct kicks in, and romantic energy shuts off. But a man who lives with a Stoic mindset, he does things differently. He's not emotionless. He's not a robot. He doesn't bury his pain and pretend it doesn't exist. But he's intentional. He's strategic. He knows how to share the right pieces of himself at the right time with the right woman. Because he understands vulnerability should never come before strength. You don't show her your wounds before you've shown her your composure. You don't talk about your storms before she's seen you walk through one with your head held high. Think of it like this: before you withdraw your vulnerability, you've got to deposit enough strength into the relationship. Show her your steadiness first. Let her see your consistency, your mindset, your self-discipline. Let her feel safe in your energy. Then, when you open up, it means something, because she sees the whole picture. Here's an example. You've only been dating for a few weeks. Everything's light, fun, playful. But suddenly, one night, you spill it all. Your fear of failure, your past trauma, your feelings of worthlessness. You reveal everything before she's even seen the man beneath the pain. What happens? She may stay sweet. She may still listen. But something changes. Deep down, she starts seeing you as a lost boy, not a man she can lean on. And when that shift happens, it's almost impossible to come back from. But here's the truth. A wise man manages his emotions. He doesn't bottle them up and explode, but he doesn't pour them out like a flood either. He shares, but he doesn't complain. He opens up, but he doesn't collapse. He maintains emotional discipline, and that discipline makes him stronger, more grounded, more reliable in every area of life. So let me ask you, have you ever opened up too soon, only to watch her slowly pull away? Have you ever felt rejected, not because you weren't good enough, but because your insecurity showed up before your strength? If you have, you're not alone, and you're not weak. You just didn't know the difference between connection and collapse. So share your story in the comments, not to vent, not to blame, but to grow, to learn, to become the kind of man who leads with quiet strength, and who knows when and how to share his heart. Because becoming emotionally mature, that's not about hiding your pain. It's about carrying it with dignity, and only placing it in the hands of someone who's ready to hold it with care. Mistake number 6 that a wise man never makes: letting her take full control of the relationship. Now, on the surface, it might sound harmless, even noble. You tell yourself, it's easier if she decides. I don't want to argue, I'll just go with the flow. As long as she's happy, that's all that matters, right? But here's the truth. Most men learn the hard way. That mindset slowly kills the polarity and eventually the relationship itself. Because no matter how strong, how independent, or how high-achieving a woman is, deep down, she wants to feel safe in your leadership. Not controlled, not dominated, but led with clarity, with calm confidence, with direction. If you're constantly handing over every decision, where to eat, what to do, how to spend the weekend, what the next move should be, she doesn't feel like your partner. She starts to feel like your mother. And the moment that dynamic sets in, the natural attraction between you begins to fade. Why? Because now she's leading while you're following, and in doing so, you've unknowingly swapped roles. The truth is this: a woman's feminine energy thrives when she can relax into your direction, and if you refuse to lead, she'll either step up and do it herself or lose interest entirely. But a Stoic-minded man knows better. He understands that leadership is not about control, it's about being decisive. It's about taking initiative. It's about owning responsibility, not just for yourself, but for the tone and direction of the relationship. He makes plans. He sets the time. He guides the conversation with presence and confidence. And yes, he listens. He hears her. He respects her thoughts, feelings, and intuition. But he doesn't depend on her to make the first move every time. He doesn't wait for her to lead the dance, because leadership in a relationship is about giving her something she can trust, something she can lean on, something solid, so she can fully express her femininity without carrying the entire emotional load. Even the strongest women, the boss ladies, the CEOs, the go-getters, they want to be able to unwind around a man who knows who he is and where he's going, a man who can say, "Hey, I've got this." Because if you don't step into your role as a leader, if you fade into the background, if you just nod and go along with everything to keep the peace, you might keep the peace temporarily, but over time, you lose her respect, and without respect, there is no real attraction, there is no lasting desire. You might live by the motto, happy wife, happy life. But here's the catch. That only works if you're still respected as a man. Because if you give up your voice, if you refuse to lead, if she's the one carrying the weight of direction, emotional tone, and daily decisions, she will grow tired, not overnight, not with a loud argument, but slowly, silently. She'll begin to disconnect, emotionally, physically, spiritually. The lesson: don't wait for permission to lead. Set boundaries. Be proactive. Take the initiative. Stop seeking her approval for every little decision. Because whether you realize it or not, we teach people how to treat us by what we tolerate. And a wise man knows a woman feels most alive, most connected, most feminine when she's with a man she can truly respect, not a man she has to manage. So let me ask you, have you ever fallen into that trap, where she decided everything, and you just kept saying, "Whatever you want, babe"? Did you notice the attraction start to fade? Did she grow distant, even when you thought you were doing the right thing? If that's you, drop a 6 in the comments. Not to judge yourself, not to feel ashamed, but to own it and grow from it. Because leadership isn't about being the loudest. It's about being the most anchored. And when you stand in your grounded, masculine presence, she feels it. And she'll want to follow, not because you asked, but because she can't help it. Mistake number 7 that a wise man never makes: apologizing for being a man. Let's be honest. In today's world, a lot of men are confused about what it really means to be masculine. We're told to tone it down, to soften up, to be more agreeable, more passive, more harmless. We're told that if we want to make women feel comfortable, we should always nod, smile, never confront, never disagree. We should play it safe, avoid tension, avoid being too much. And slowly, without even realizing it, we begin to hide our strength. We quiet our voice. We shrink our presence, not out of respect, but out of fear. Fear of offending, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being labeled too intense, too confident, too manly. But here's the truth that cuts through all the noise. Women are not drawn to men who apologize for being masculine. Sure, in the beginning, she might think you're sweet. She might even say, "You're so nice, so different." But over time, that attraction fades. Not because she's cruel, not because she wants a jerk, but because something instinctual inside her craves polarity, craves the strength, the stability, the grounded presence of a man who knows exactly who he is. There's nothing wrong with being masculine, with speaking your mind, with having a spine, with taking up space, not with arrogance but with calm authority, real attraction. It doesn't come from compliance, it comes from confidence, from leadership, from standing tall in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Think about it. What kind of man do women truly feel drawn to? Not the one who says, "Whatever you want, I'll follow," but the one who says, "I hear you, I value your perspective, and here's how I see it." A Stoic man isn't loud. He's not aggressive. He doesn't dominate conversations or steamroll people into submission. He's calm, centered, but firm. He sets boundaries without needing to raise his voice. He holds his ground without disrespect. And when there's conflict, he doesn't back down out of fear, but steps forward with clarity and poise. For example, during a disagreement, most guys will fold. They'll say, "You're right, I'm sorry for everything," even when their voice hasn't been heard at all. But a wise man, he says, "I understand how you feel, but there's something I need to express too." That's not ego, that's maturity, that's emotional discipline. Because masculinity isn't about being unfeeling, it's not about suppressing your emotions or becoming cold, it's about mastery. The ability to feel deeply, but not be ruled by those emotions, to stay grounded, steady and strong, especially when it's hard. And if you find yourself constantly reacting, losing your cool, or shrinking away just to avoid tension, chances are you're still carrying unhealed wounds. Those old scars from childhood, rejection, betrayal, they show up when you least expect them. They make you apologize for who you are instead of standing proud in it. But healing, growth, that comes from doing the inner work, from building confidence step by step, from earning your own self-respect. And when you do, you'll stop apologizing, not out of pride, but out of truth. You'll walk into the world, not aggressively, but unapologetically masculine, calm, grounded, clear. A man who leads himself first and invites others to rise with him. So let me ask you, have you ever felt like you had to dial down your masculinity just to be accepted? Have you ever found yourself saying sorry, not because you were wrong, but because you were afraid of being misunderstood? If so, comment 7 below. Not for sympathy, but to own your truth, because real strength doesn't come from pretending to be someone you're not. It comes from being fully yourself, confident, respected, and unshakably masculine. Mistake number 8, ignoring red flags just because she's beautiful. Let's be real. When you're face to face with a woman who takes your breath away, it's so easy to turn a blind eye. You tell yourself, "She's stunning. I'll never find anyone like her again." And that's when it starts. You begin to compromise. Maybe she's rude to waiters, always glued to her phone. She never takes responsibility, and somehow, every bit of drama becomes your fault. But instead of asking the hard questions, you make excuses. She probably just had a bad day. Or worse. All women are like this, right? That's how good men walk straight into toxic relationships. Eyes open, heart closed. But a stoic-minded man, he sees clearly. He knows that beauty is not equal to character. He knows a pretty face doesn't justify disrespect, dishonesty or manipulation, if she plays games, if she hides conversations, if she makes you feel small, anxious, or like you constantly have to earn her affection. That's not love. That's not even compatibility. That's emotional chaos in disguise. And the more emotionally attached you become, the harder it is to walk away. But here's the truth. Red flags don't fade over time. They don't disappear. They just get brighter, louder, more painful. Let me give you a scenario. You notice she flirts with other guys, but calls it harmless. She hides texts, dismisses your feelings, creates arguments out of nothing just to keep the energy unstable. And yet, you stay, because she's beautiful. But soon, you're drained. You're insecure, you're exhausted, and full of regret. Because a smart man values peace over passion. He knows a great body can't compensate for a toxic mind. True strength is having the courage to walk away. Even when every part of you wants to stay, even when the temptation is strong. What matters most? Learning to judge people by their behavior, not their appearance. Because in the end, your peace, your sanity, and your self-respect are worth more than any short-term thrill. Have you ever stayed with someone just because they were beautiful, even when your gut screamed, something's wrong? If so, drop an 8 in the comments and share your story, because some of the most important lessons in life come from the red flags we chose to ignore. Mistake number 9, letting her use sex as a tool to control you. This one's subtle, but dangerous. Some women use physical intimacy as leverage, a silent form of control. When you do what she wants, she rewards you with closeness, affection, warmth. But when you set a boundary, when you disagree, or ask for mutual respect, suddenly she's cold, distant, no longer in the mood. And now you're questioning yourself. Did I mess up? Was I too harsh? Should I just say sorry, even if I didn't do anything wrong? That's how you lose your power in the relationship. Because when sex becomes a reward for obedience and intimacy becomes a tool for manipulation, you're no longer in a loving partnership. You're in a psychological game, but a Stoic man sees through it. He doesn't beg. He doesn't fold just to get some. He knows if love has conditions, it's not love. If your closeness depends on compliance, it's not connection, it's control. Let's make it plain. Real life example, you ask her, gently, to stop flirting with other guys. You set a boundary, and instead of a respectful conversation, she shuts down, withdraws, uses silence and distance to punish you. That's not healthy. That's emotional blackmail. And over time, you become conditioned to say yes to everything, to avoid conflict, to avoid being pushed away. So you fold again and again until one day you can't even recognize yourself anymore. But here's the truth. A man's dignity is not for sale, not for sex, not for attention, not for temporary closeness. Yes, it may mean lonely nights. It may mean walking away from what feels good. But it's worth it. Because what's the alternative? A life where you have to perform to be loved. A life where your boundaries are bent for a few minutes of validation. A wise man holds the line. He doesn't chase. He doesn't collapse. He leads with calm strength. And when he gives love, he gives it freely, not in exchange for obedience. So what about you? Have you ever bent over backwards just to feel close physically? Did you sacrifice your voice, your values, just to keep the intimacy alive? If yes, drop a 9 in the comments. Not to shame yourself, but to grow, to take your power back. To remember that your freedom, your self-respect, and your emotional clarity should never be traded for temporary pleasure. From my personal perspective, this isn't just a list of mistakes. It's a wake-up call. A call to men who are slowly, silently losing themselves in the endless pursuit of love and the desperate desire to be loved in return. We live in a world where masculinity is misunderstood, where being a strong man is often reduced to muscles, status, or loud opinions. But true strength, it goes deeper. It's about emotional control. It's about protecting your values even when it's hard. It's about staying loyal to your mission, your principles, your path. No matter who walks in or walks out of your life, because love, real love, should never be the place where you lose yourself. It should be the place where two whole, healthy people grow stronger together. But sadly, that's not what we see today. Too many good men, driven by a deep hunger for connection, for acceptance, dim their light, they fold, they shrink. They trade their power for attention, and in return, they receive nothing but disrespect. Let me say this clearly. I truly believe respect always comes before attraction. And lasting attraction, it doesn't come from desperate chasing. It doesn't come from reckless spending, begging, or pretending. It comes from calm, steady inner strength, from mental clarity, from a grounded presence that says, I know who I am, and I won't lose myself to keep you. Truly high-value women, the ones worth building with. They don't want to control you. They want you to be steady enough to lead, to be present enough to listen, and strong enough not to abandon yourself in the name of love. They're not looking for perfection, they're looking for truth. For a man who's mastered himself, not with dominance or aggression, but with compassion, awareness, and self-discipline. So before you go looking for her, build your life first. Build your passion, your purpose, your discipline, your dignity. That's the foundation. That's what creates peace, not chaos. And hear this clearly. Don't ever apologize for being a man. Don't shrink your masculinity to make others comfortable. Don't hide your fire. Master it. Lead with strength and kindness. Speak with clarity and calm. Walk away not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to leave any place where you're not seen, valued, or respected. Because real love, it never costs you your self-worth. It never asks you to sacrifice your peace, your boundaries, or your dignity. And above all, don't let beauty blind you to behavior. Yes, a beautiful woman might take your breath away, but only a woman with true character, true depth, true integrity can give you something far more valuable than a pretty face: peace, stability, real connection. So build yourself, stand tall, and never forget, you were never meant to chase love. You were meant to embody it. Looking back, how many of these 9 mistakes have you made? 1? 5? All of them? It's okay. Breathe. Give yourself a little grace. You're doing the best you can, with what you know, with the tools you have, with the experiences you've lived through. There's no need to shame yourself. No need to beat yourself up. That's not strength, that's self-punishment. What you really need is just a little more awareness. Day by day, step by step, because awareness is a journey, not a destination. No man wakes up one morning as the perfect version of himself. No one becomes the ideal man overnight. Growth? It comes from the stumbles. It comes from the wrong turns, the regrets, the uncomfortable realizations. But most of all, it comes from how you rise after them. And I get it. Being a man in today's world, it's not easy. You're told to be strong, but not too strong. Sensitive, but not too emotional. You're expected to lead, but not dominate. And half the time, it feels like no one handed you the manual. Emotions get messy, life gets loud, and sometimes you just wish there was someone to sit down with, to talk things through. So from me to you, a solid hug, a nod of respect, and a sincere reminder you are not alone. You're walking a path that many are afraid to face. The path of becoming a man with strength, clarity, and peace. You're learning how to get stronger without getting hard. Live in alignment with your values, not just your feelings. Protect your energy and hold on to your inner peace, even when the world feels like it's spinning out of control. So keep going, even if you move slowly, even if some days feel like setbacks, even if you're just putting one foot in front of the other, because what matters is that you don't forget who you're becoming. I believe in you, but even more important, you should believe in yourself. You're not broken, you're becoming. And that's a journey worth walking every single day. I'll see you in the next part. And until then, stand tall, stay grounded, and never forget the man you're here to become.